Check out this map. No roads, no street names, no zip codes. Officially, this place doesn't even exist. But if you ignore all the warning signs and drive about 1,000 kilometers deep into Western Australia, you'll see it. Wittenoom. The town the government tried to kill 3 times over. Why are the authorities spending millions to erase it from history? And why does anyone who still dares to go there basically sign their own death warrant? Back in the middle of the last century, Wittenoom wasn't a ghost town at all. Quite the opposite. It was the Australian dream come to life. Right in the middle of the red rocks and scorched Pilbara Desert, a little oasis popped up. Modern houses, a movie theater, hotels, the whole deal. The reason for all that boom was literally right under people's feet. Chrysotolite, blue asbestos. Back in those days, they called it the miracle mineral. The whole world wanted Wittenoom asbestos for their factories, ships, and skyscrapers. The town was booming. Salaries were so high that workers could afford pretty much anything they dreamed of. But there was one weird thing everyone got used to super fast. In Wittenoom, there was never any normal dust. The entire town was covered in a soft, shimmering blue layer. This sand was everywhere. People sprinkled it on garden paths so their shoes wouldn't get stained with the red clay. The city council used mine waste to reinforce schoolyards and fill in playgrounds. Imagine this. Kids spending hours in sandboxes filled with the purest concentrate of deadly fibers. They tossed it into the air, built castles, and breathed in that dust while their parents chilled in the shade. Men came home from the mines, their clothes so soaked in blue fluff that their wives would shake them out right in the living room, sending whole clouds of blue fog swirling around. Nobody wore masks. Nobody was scared. Back then, the blue dust of Wittenoom was a symbol of wealth. They didn't know that every one of those wealthy breaths was cutting decades off their lives. The paradise life in the desert was just a beautiful screen, hiding a mass suicide paid for in cash. But why exactly did Wittenoom become a death sentence for thousands of people? Asbestos was used all over the world, after all. The thing is, they were mining chrysotolite here. Scientists call it the Blue Death. While the body can still try to get rid of regular white asbestos, blue asbestos is nature's perfect killing machine. Look at these fibers under the microscope. This isn't just dust. These are billions of microscopic harpoons. They're so thin that your body's natural filters, the nose and throat, don't even register them. They slip right through like a knife through butter and stab straight into the deepest part, the pleura, the protective lining around your lungs. And that's where the real horror begins. Your body instantly realizes there's an enemy inside. The immune system sends out defender cells to swallow and dissolve the intruder, but the cell can't digest a rock. It dies trying, leaving behind a tiny scar. Day after day, month after month, your lungs literally turn to stone from the inside, becoming one solid, rigid scar. In medicine, they call this mesothelioma. And this disease has one terrifying feature, the latency period. You can leave Wittenoom, move to another city, live there for 30 years, start a family, have grandkids, and completely forget about that one trip. But the needle's already inside you. It's just waiting for its moment. Wittenoom doesn't kill you on the spot. It simply starts a timer inside your body that you can't stop. When you first notice that slight shortness of breath or the heaviness in your chest, it's already too late. From the moment the first symptoms of mesothelioma appear, you've got less than a year left. It's the perfect killer, silent, invisible, and completely merciless. Do you still think that bright photo against the backdrop of abandoned ruins is worth it? But the scariest thing about Wittenoom's story isn't the cruelty of nature. It's human greed. The truth is, the authorities and the mine owners knew about the danger. As early as 1948, when the town was just starting to boom, government doctors were already sounding the alarm. Their reports said it straight up in black and white. Working in Wittenoom leads to inevitable death. Did they shut down the mines? No. Instead, those reports got shoved into the back drawers of desks. The mines belonged to some of Australia's biggest industrial tycoons, and the profits rolling in from blue asbestos were way too huge to give a damn about ordinary workers' lives. For almost 20 years, The whole system ran like a well-oiled machine, turning people into cash. The bosses at CSR ignored hundreds of lawsuits. When workers started coughing up blood, they were told it was just a cold or from smoking too much. Even when the mines finally shut down in 1966 because they weren't profitable anymore, the government kept pretending the town was safe. They didn't want to pay out billions in compensation. They just waited for people to disappear. For 2 whole decades, families kept living inside that toxic cloud, having no clue their fate had already been decided in offices thousands of kilometers away. Wittenoom became the site of the biggest industrial killing in the country's history. While the corporations tallied up their net profits, the people of Wittenoom were counting fresh graves in the local cemetery, which, by the way, is considered a deadly danger zone today too. You'd think that after the mines shut down, Wittenoom's story would just end. But the town flat out refused to die quietly. It turned into a battlefield that's been raging for over half a century. The Australian government declared war on Wittenoom. They wanted to wipe it off the map so they wouldn't have to pay the bills and could bury the shame of the past. First, they bought up most of the houses for next to nothing. Then they moved to the really harsh stuff. Picture this. You're living in your own home, and suddenly workers roll up and just cut down the road sign with your town's name on it. The authorities officially declared Wittenoom non-existent. They cut the electricity. They shut off the water. They told the post office to stop delivering mail here. The most famous fighter was Lorraine Thomas. She lived in that toxic dead end for almost 40 years, completely alone. She called the place paradise and said the government just wanted to steal her land. She became a symbol of resistance, living in a house with no phone signal, surrounded by silence and invisible asbestos needles. But in 2022, the state delivered the final blow. A special law on forced eviction was passed. Special forces and social services hauled out the last residents by force. Doors were boarded up, and the entrances to the town were blocked off with massive concrete barriers. Today, Wittenoom is a real open-air prison. There's no life left here, but the things of the people who fought so desperately to hold on to it are still scattered around. The irony? Even after beating the people, the authorities lost to the town. Wittenoom is still standing, empty, angry, and still deadly dangerous. You'd think after hearing all this, any sane person would stay 1,000 kilometers away from Wittenoom. But 21st century reality has its own rules. For the new generation of stalkers and hype chasers, Wittenoom has become the ultimate forbidden fruit. Hundreds of videos on TikTok and Instagram with tags like abandoned city and danger zone. Young people sneak past concrete blocks and barbed wire just to get that perfect aesthetic shot in an empty classroom or in front of the rusty skeleton of a car. They call it an adventure. They don't get that every step they take across that layer of dust in an abandoned house kicks up billions of those invisible needles we talked about. They take off their masks for the perfect selfie, basically signing their own death warrant, one that won't get cashed in for another 20 years. Fines for visiting Wittenoom are massive, and the police regularly patrol the perimeter. Wittenoom isn't just some abandoned town. It's a monument to an era when corporate profits came way before human lives. For decades, they built fortunes on a material that slowly killed the very people creating the wealth. Today, the government wants us to forget the name ever existed. They wiped it off maps, tore down the signs, and forcibly removed the last witnesses. They're betting the desert will swallow the ruins, and time will erase the memory of the lawsuits and thousands of deaths. If you've made it this far, it means you actually care about the secrets the world tries to bury. On this channel, we keep digging into the most dangerous and forbidden corners of the planet, the ones the news never touches. Subscribe so you don't miss our next investigation. There are still plenty of places in the world you're better off never going to. Even for the most perfect shot. Take care of yourselves. See you in the next one.